Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be continuing my 13 Days of Halloween series with VHS 99, which is yet another film in the VHS franchise, one that I absolutely love because I think this series really gives a chance for a lot of smaller filmmakers to put together a short film with their own stamp, their own writing, their own style, give them a chance to put it in this franchise that a lot of people are going to have their eyes on because me, for one, I'm a big fan of this franchise. Whenever they make a VHS movie, I'm going to be excited to watch it. Whether the quality of these shorts are good or not, I'm always going to be interested to checking it out because I love seeing what these future filmmakers have in store for us. So we are going to be talking about spoilers for all 5 of the shorts that are in this film. So if you have not seen VHS 99, check it out. It's on Shudder right now. I highly recommend this one. I actually liked 3 of the 5 short films in this, and it got me so excited that I actually went and started writing my own VHS shorts just for fun. I'm in the middle of working on it right now, and it's very hard for me to get passionate about writing at any time. So thank you, all the filmmakers of this shorts, for getting me excited to write again. So the first short we're going to be talking about is called Shredded, directed by Maggie Levin, who was the second unit director of a film that you probably saw earlier this year called The Black Phone, which I really did like, and it gives her a chance to kind of, set the tone for this entire movie, because that first short film in this series really has to nail that. And it's called VHS 99, so it takes place in 1999, obviously. So this one is following the skater group. They also have a band, and they make these skater videos that you see very prominently in this time period. And I think that it captures that tone, that style, and that, energy from these skater films very, very well in the opening of this film. I really did like the tone, the style, the look of this short film. I just think that this was honestly one of the weaker ones of the 5. All of these friends are a very big fan of this band group that's, died at their last venue because there was this fire. All the audience escaped, but the 4 band members sadly did not. So they want to go back to this venue to where it all happened and, do their own little rock concert for themselves. Essentially, they just want to have fun and mess around, and they hear that it's haunted, and so they're just kind of messing with one of their friends. And this is where I kind of click off of this short, because I really didn't understand why this kid was friends with the rest of this group, because they were terrible in this thing. I hated each and every one of them because they kept on messing with him so harshly. It wasn't like a fun, like goofy little, we're just messing with him for fun. It was actually very rude and just very brutal and very frustrating. And that's one thing that I want to talk about in this entire film in general. There's a lot of the characters were frustrating, but for the most part, in some of the other shorts, it's frustrating with a purpose. This one just didn't seem like it had a purpose for why the characters were so incredibly unlikable, because the way this thing plays out, they go into this place, they're messing with this kid, and he gets so frustrated that he leaves, and they get attacked by like these zombie ghost spirit things, whatever they were, of, the band from the past, and they absolutely tear them to shred. It's very gory, it's very brutal, and again, in that way, the style of the short film was entertaining, but when they were killing all these kids, I didn't feel remorse because these zombie bandmates also killed the kid that was being picked on. If he got away and it was just, punishment against the ones that were being rude, maybe it would make a little more sense. But the fact that they killed the kid too, that I actually did like, that I was being frustrated with them messing with him the entire time, I just would have, came out of this short film feeling a little bit better for myself, because that's how it is for a lot of the other ones later on. But again, I like this style. I think it kicked off the tone very well, but I don't think it stuck the landing. And it was kind of goofy. The little zombie things running around, ripping people apart, and then playing a band rock concert at the end was just, it was a little weird. The next short is called Suicide Bid, directed by Johannes, who did the 47 Meters Down movies, and he did a couple other films. I just really haven't seen anything he's really done before, so this is the first one I've seen, and honestly, of all 5 of the shorts, this one was my favorite. Again, you want to start off with a bang with this one, so the first one I was kind of disappointed with, but this one, man, I love this one. The short follows the main character Lily, who really wants to become a part of this one sorority, and she's doing a suicide bid, which basically means that she's only going to apply for this one sorority, and she's not going to do any others, just to prove that she really desperately wants to get into this one sorority in particular. And so she has to go through this hazing event, essentially this initiation, where they're going to take her to a graveyard, they're going to bury her alive, and they're going to kind of mess with her. If she rings a bell to get out, she's not a part of the sorority, but if she lasts overnight, she will be added to the sorority. And this premise inherently has a lot of tension built right into it, which is why I think I like this one so much, because you're being buried alive with the main character in this. You're always in the coffin for the most part in this entire short. You don't really get to see what's happening on the outside, and so from her perspective, of course, it's going to be terrifying. And with her performance, which was really good, I really felt stressed inside of this coffin along with her for the entire time, because it just was that well put together. And just like the last short, you have these sorority characters who are the ones that you're meant to hate. They're the ones that you're rooting against because you're rooting for the main character. But in this one, it makes sense because she's being buried alive. These 4 are just messing with her, and when it starts to rain and they see, this, car coming up, yelling at them, telling them to go away, and they run off and they leave her there as the thing is flooding, it is so incredibly stressful, and you hate them so much, and you're stressed for this main character. They even give her a box filled with spiders. They say, oh, if you're at the most scared point, if you're the most desperate to get out, open this box and see what happens, and it will, help you through the rest of the night. She opens it, and it's just a bunch of spiders. How messed up is that? It reminded me of that movie Buried, starring Ryan Reynolds. It's just so claustrophobic, so tense throughout the entire thing. When the thing starts flooding with water, I was so stressed. I felt so bad for this character, and I hated the rest of these sorority girls so much. And so what happens is she gets filled into this thing, and there's a story of the first person who was a part of this sorority that actually died in this sort of challenge. And so she thinks that she hears this knocking above her. She thinks that the ghost of this girl is going to get her, and the whole thing bursts open. This like skull, this rotting away woman bursts through the top of the coffin, and more water starts pouring in, and you don't know what happened because it cuts to the other girls the next morning. They see the thing is flooded, and they see that the coffin is now empty. And so it turns out that that ghost story that the sorority girls told them at the beginning of the short is true, where the person was buried alive and they're missing the next morning. Nobody knows what happens to them, and all of a sudden the rest of the sorority girls, because of what they had done and because what Lily says, the deal that she makes with the spirits of that first girl that died in this sort of hazing event, they all get buried alive and are all being tortured by Lily and by this other girl, the spirits, the zombie looking ghost things or whatever they were of these characters. It was very well done and very satisfying as well. I will say one of my negatives about this short was at the very end, when you find out that all the other girls are buried alive, you get to see Lily as this kind of messed up dead body sort of thing. She's kind of like a zombie, but then she's talking, she's telling the character that's buried alive why this is happening, because she made a deal with the other girl and they're going to haunt them, they're going to give them what they deserve. And it's like, I didn't need you to tell me that. I think I got that from the fact that they were all buried alive and that they're seeing the spirits of these two women that you've essentially murdered, that you've put in this situation and murdered. And so I didn't think that was necessary. It's a little bit campy and a little bit cheesy, but I don't care. I was very satisfied with the ending of this short, and I thought this one just had so much tension and was so well directed. The next short is called OZZY'S Dungeon, directed by Flying Lotus, the musical artist. Kind of weird that he's directing a short in the VHS movies. Maybe he's a fan of the franchise and wanted to direct this. I don't know. I don't care, because this one was another interesting one. It reminded me more so of the first one. It kind of dives into that style of the 90s. It takes place in this game show called OZZY'S Dungeon, which is like a kid's show where they go through this obstacle course, and it's kind of like painful for them, and it's like kind of mistreating children. And one girl that goes through this breaks her leg in a very bloody and very just brutal scene that was just like painful. It was so hard to watch. But then all these years later, the family of this girl kidnapped that host and put him through his own little torture game that he has to try to get through, or else he will die. And so this is your Saw-like torture porn segment of this film. And this one, again, I don't really like these type of things. It's very gory, it's very satisfying in terms of like, you have these characters, putting out this sort of revenge against, the host of this thing, and it's very bloody. It's very, very disgusting. It's very hard to watch in terms of the style of it, how they capture that game show type thing. I thought it was very fun. I liked that beginning of it, that setup for everything that was happening. But once it got to the torture porn sort of stuff, I just stopped really caring, because all the characters, again, I didn't really care about anybody. And this guy that was being tortured, obviously you're supposed to be rooting for him to get tortured, but at the same time, it was so disgusting and gross that it was just kind of hard to watch. There's also this element that when you won that kid's game show, you got this wish. You got to go to this place, this, gate, you got to go into there, and you were able to make a wish and get anything that you desired. And the entire game show in general is meant to be so difficult that it's going to be very hard for any of these kids to be able to get into there to get their wish. But by the end of the shorts, the guy who's being tortured says he can get them their wish. They can go back to that place, go through the gates, and they do that. They go through the gates. It's this weird cave tunnel thing. They go deeper into it, and there's this like weird woman that's lying in the middle. I can't show you pictures because she's like naked, and it's like it's very grotesque, very gross, very just disgusting. And then this monster bursts out of her chest and starts like granting her a wish, and everybody's faces start melting. And maybe that was her wish, or maybe they're just melting faces. I don't know. Maybe this little girl just wanted to kill everybody who was doing all the bad things in this thing, including her family, including that game show host. I don't really know what happened. This thing just got off the rails very, very fast, and it just wasn't a pleasing short film to watch. It was well made for the most part. It just didn't go on my wavelength at all. The next short is called The Gawkers, directed by Tyler MacIntyre, and he did a couple, Shudder originals that I am actually kind of interested in watching, because I love Shudder. They make some interesting stuff, so I'm interested to see this guy's work. And like I said, this film gives chances to smaller filmmakers, and it seems like they gave chances to Shudder favorites in this one. So of course, he directed some Shudder films. He's going to direct a segment in this, like I said, called The Gawkers, and this one is about this group of boys who are very obnoxiously from the 90s. They are kind of the peeping Toms are peeking out of their window at this girl that lives across the street, and they are just the most disgusting boys that you've ever seen on screen ever. So usually in these VHS movies, you have this overarching story that takes place in between all the different shorts, and this time we don't really get that, because usually when these VHS movies do that, especially in VHS 94, I almost always hate it. I did not think it worked in that last film. Thankfully, we don't really get it in this one, because we get this sort of stop motion version of some kid playing with these army toys instead, and it turns out that that kid playing with the army toys is a kid in this film. So one day the teenage boys see this younger brother kind of rollerblading in the front driveway, and this girl walks up to him to kind of help him because he almost falls on his face a couple times, and so she kind of guides him. They form this relationship. He goes inside of her house, and the teenagers have this great idea, I guess for them a great idea, to have this brother kind of be the spy, to install some spyware on her computer so they can kind of peep on her through the webcam. And so like two of the other shorts before it, we have this main character who's kind of the innocent one, along with all these other characters that are doing some terrible things that you're just waiting for them to get their comeuppance. And so that's essentially what happens. This kid installs the spyware, so now you're kind of rooting against this kid as well. All these kids are terrible. This, younger brother just wants to kind of fit in with all the other boys in this short, and so I understand why he does it, and you also see that he gets nervous about it and he regrets it immediately. But of course, he's the one who made all this happen, so he's going to get his comeuppance. So what's the supernatural threat in this short? Well, this girl across the street had these statues of some, people's heads in the front yard. You don't really know why that's the case, and when, she's undressing in this film, you see all of a sudden her hair gets peeled off and a bunch of snakes come out of her head, and she's straight up Medusa. The short took a very, very odd turn, because she jumps from that house to this other house and starts turning all the kids into stone. She's ripping into the chest of one of them, ripping their heads off, and just like completely brutal. Again, very gory and just kind of bizarre. She's killing all these kids, and again, kind of satisfying, because I kind of hated all the characters in this short, and so they're all getting what they deserve. And at one point, the two brothers get turned into stone, and one of the brothers was holding the camera, and when he turns into stone, the camera stops shaking and it kind of becomes still. I really like that. I kind of liked the style of this one, and although I see a lot of people hating on this one online, I get it. I didn't quite like it as much as the suicide bid, but whatever. This one was still fun. I enjoyed the ride of it. I don't think it'll work as well on rewatch, because the surprise of her being Medusa was kind of interesting. I think the look of her was kind of off. The CG in it was a little wonky and a little bit weird, but I did enjoy watching this one. So last but not least, we have To Hell and Back, which is directed by Joseph and Vanessa Winter, who are also some Shudder favorites. They did some Shudder originals in the past, and so of course they're going to get their shots to make a segment in VHS, and this one was actually my second favorite of the bunch. I really enjoyed this one in terms of its ambition. So this film follows a couple of documentarians who are following this cult that are kind of, trying to figure out how to summon a demon into a volunteer's body, and so they're doing this ritual, and in the middle of the ritual, these two guys get sucked literally into hell. And I think that the landscape and the way this thing was shot, and the color and the kind of lightning in the sky being all red, was a very cool stylistic choice. Like I said, it's very ambitious to try to make hell in this sort of like very low budget short horror film. You are also introduced to a character called Mabel the Skullbiter, who is residing in hell, and she was amazing. I love this character so much. She's kind of the one that knows the territory. She knows how to traverse around hell because she's been there for a while. She knows how to survive, and there's so many things in hell that were kind of interesting. There was a lot of these like creature designs that were down there, a lot of these like weird bodies. There's one where it's like a normal size head on a very, very tiny body with big feet. It was very gross, very bloody, and just very bizarre in general. Like I said, the ambition of this one was really cool, because we're literally taking two characters, doing a fish out of water in hell, and they're going to try to get to the demon Ugabon before the ritual is finished, and they're able to get back to him in order to get back to the real world, because they aren't dead, they're in hell by mistake. So like I said, I really did like the practical special effects in this entire short, and the look and the ambition of this one. I think the characters in their fish out of water storyline is fun to watch, and their journey to get back to Ugabon, to go back to the normal world with Mabel the Skullbiter. I want to see more of this world, honestly. I want to see more of Mabel the Skullbiter, because it turns out by the end of this short, they go back, they attack Ugabon, they go back to the real world, but they're in the wrong bodies, and then these cultists, these witches, just kind of tear them apart and murder them because, they're not meant to be in the right spot. They're kind of in the wrong places, and they just murder them because I honestly don't really know, but they murder them. But before one of the main guys can die, he writes Mabel's name in the book, and during the credits, you hear this cult chanting Mabel's name to get her back from hell into the real world. So give me more Mabel the Skullbiter. She was great. I loved her performance, and just one of my favorite parts of this entire VHS movie in general, leaving off on such a high note. So if I were to rank all these shorts in this VHS movie, I would definitely put, the suicide bid as number 1. I'd have To Hell and Back as my number 2. The Gawkers would be my number 3. And then for 4 and 5, I can't really decide. Maybe I'd put the first one, Shredded, at number 4, and then maybe OZZY'S Dungeon at the bottom. I don't really know about 4 and 5. Maybe I can switch them, but honestly, OZZY'S Dungeon would probably be on the bottom just because it was very unpleasant the entire time. I didn't really enjoy myself while watching that one, but it has the blood and gore that you might want as a viewer. So what did you guys think of VHS 99? What would you rank, all of these different VHS shorts in this film, and how would you rank this in terms of the other VHS movies? I'm curious to hear all your thoughts. I did enjoy this one more than VHS 94, and I'm very excited for them to do the next VHS movie, which I'm sure they'll have out another one either next year or the year after that. And also, if you're one of the filmmakers involved in making the VHS movies, hit me up. I'm writing a script for you, and I think it's fun. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not, but I love VHS, and I'd love to write a short for you guys because why not? So that'll be it for me. If you guys enjoyed this video, definitely subscribe to the channel to see more reviews from this 13 Days of Halloween series. I'm having a lot of fun. Of course, the link is going to be right up there to watch all the different videos in this series. I've reviewed Terrifier, I reviewed the Velocipaster, which was really fun, so definitely check those videos out. So thanks everybody for watching this video. Leave a like, subscribe, and I hope to see you all in my next one. I'm so close to 1,000. Let's get there.